everybody on Zoom?
Actually, I don't think so. Oh, actually, we do. Yeah.
All right. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get started. Few in number today. Hopefully we have some more people roll through, and we do have groups coming with the sandwiches. They just forgot to deliver them the first. And they try to get out of doing that. You can take it off of your check and let them know we want for drinks. So. All right, thank you everybody for being in attendance. We know that during the summer months it gets hard. Other things are going on and people are on vacation. But we're glad to have everybody here today. We will go ahead and start off with our pledge. We've got our flag up here in the front. We want to stand and I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I didn't introduce myself. I think everybody knows me. I'm Justin Shepard. Oh, please sit. Yeah. I will be the vice president of ASSP. I think we're going to do the official thing next month. Tom, our president, was ill today. He showed up for an executive meeting, but he took off before he got anybody else sick. So we'll excuse him. Vincent, anything that we need to discuss before we get into our presenter? Okay. So today we have Brent Flavin. It's Flavin. Yeah. Brent is the co-founder of Boom Nation. Boom Nation is a technology platform that builds products and features skilled workers. Products and features skilled workers actually want to use. It's one of the largest communities of skilled workers in the US, and they just released a new product. He's going to tell us a little bit about that today and how it helps industries be safer and helps their employees communicate about safety and things much better. So with that, I'll just turn the time over to Brent.
Yeah, thank you. Justin, thank you all for having me. Appreciate it. One thing I didn't know whether or not, I don't love intros, don't love attention action. I'm not a great presenter, so we're going to on this side.
I didn't even do your Alabama thing.
Yeah, so I was gonna just I sent two versions to Justin. One was just that quick verb, and the other one was I was trying to be humorous and in it. So I'm an LSU Tiger. There'll be a little bit LSU Tiger during this presentation, any chance that I get. And you know, I said in there that I've only been an Alabama state champ twice in the 12 years that I've lived in Birmingham. And in our family, we call Alabama state champs when LSU beats both Auburn and Alabama in the same season.
There you go.
So it's been a tough 12 years living in Alabama as a Tiger fan, especially in the fall. But any other time of the year, we love being here. So Boom Nation, and you see for the skilled, we had this idea to launch a technology startup where we remove friction and provide a better and more meaningful experience for skilled workers every step of the way. We started in building a community, and I think that might be my next.
Let me make sure that you're.
Okay. So we started building a community, and we released a product that we scaled nationally last year. Well, we were in every state in the country except for Delaware and Vermont.
And who cares about them?
Yeah, exactly. We pushed hard to try to get those. We haven't been able to kind of plant the flag yet and say we're in every state, but we did do the job last year, kind of launching the platform, if you will. And here's the LSU plug. So we started with the community and building a community, and we had some great content and a bit of workers to connect, and a bit similar to like LinkedIn for blue collar. And we're upwards of 150,000 or so skilled workers on the platform today. It doesn't sound like a lot, but I like to put it into perspective. So this is LSU's basketball arena, baseball field, and football stadium. And so the PMAC, Alex Box, Tiger Stadium combined. So we've got more people in the Boom Nation community than those three stadiums, if you will, combined. Put things into kind of context. And so we're a team that we listen to our customers, our employers. We call our employers private partners. We say private because we work with some public partners as well. And so we're a team that really listens to our partners as well as our skilled workers that we work with. And in doing that, we went out and we asked everyone like, hey, how's the product work? We do this pretty frequently. Our product engineering team is really involved in these conversations. How are things working? Is the product working like it should? Sometimes there's small requests that we can do within a day or so. We get those releases out. Other times there's larger requests, if you will. And some of those take weeks, some takes months, some of them take months, and some of them take a year or two to get done. We call those roadmaps or impact plans that we work with our customers on. What was interesting, when we did it, in the fall of last year, we really took a deep dive. And Justin and I were talking, like in technology, sometimes when you release a product or a platform or a feature, you think you have an idea of what it's going to be used for. And then the market or your customers eventually end up telling you like, no, it's not for that. It's for this, right? To kind of simplify it. And in those conversations, it was almost the same exact feedback every single time. Boy, we love what y'all are doing with the community and with the hiring product, and it's needed, and we support you, and it's going to be so cool when it gets to scale, right? But in every occurrence, it was like, but there's a couple things that it's just plaguing us today. Number one, communicating with the workforce in the field. And we prefer for that to be like SMS based. In other words, and we'll get into this in a sec, but the products that we're using today aren't, they're a little bit too robust. They're not meeting the needs of like the workers that we have in the field. They're not easy enough, right? The second one was like, we got all this other stuff, but we could just have a hub where everything kind of lives and we got one access, like that would just make it easier on everybody. And then there was kind of like a nice to have, and it was, boy, it'd be nice if within this product, we could build culture, build employee empowerment, and we could inform our workforce regularly, right? And so we got this almost everywhere we went. Like we got problems with this every day on projects. Where do I go? Who do I call in case of emergency? Do I need to be clean shaven? Do I need fire resistant clothing? I think I'm at the wrong job site, all right? And the customers also told us that, again, like we need something to be able to deliver information to our workforce to drive culture to fuel success. And they gave us, I'm from Louisiana, so I talk about things and ingredients and recipes a lot, right? So they gave us kind of these ingredients that what they thought led to the ultimate recipe of success, right? And some of them force ranked these differently, but most of them, it was like culture and safety was first, right? Retention, productivity, that's not necessarily in order, but like culture and safety were typically fourth ranked first. Retention, productivity ultimately led to the success of a project. Well, the main problem being with what they were using was technology and construction. A lot of times it's too heavy, it's reactive, and it's management focused. And look, there's great technology. We're partnered with and have great relationships with some of the leading folks out there, like Procore and others, right? So like, but they're designed with project management, and most of them, this is the simple stuff that matters. Like most of them are, the access is with an email, right? And a lot of the workers in the field, they don't have emails, right? And so you can't necessarily roll the product or the interface. The workers can't necessarily use that product in a lot of cases, right? But they're designed with desktop in mind, back office in mind, a lot of analytics, sometimes heavy, and they're designed for the use case that they're designed for, and they're great products, but they're not necessarily designed for the field. And what occurs is you have these two different experiences, like siloed experiences, right? You got a skilled worker experience, and then you have an employer experience, okay? And they're just kind of every single day on projects or in facilities, they're separated, right? I think I missed the slide, but let me just hop into this. So we went and did some research. And just a couple, I've got like 2 or 3 slides here, but like, 86% of employees and executives cite the lack of effective collaboration and communication as the main cause for workplace failures. And the definition of that, like workplace failures, And when we did that research, some of it was like productivity, some of it was actual like safety failures, right? Incidents that occurred on projects. That was kind of the ingredients, if you will, to the recipe that caused the failures. And 86% of employees citing that it had to do with the lack of communication. Employees who feel included in more detailed workplace communication are almost 5 times more likely to report increased productivity. And so what we found in kind of talking with folks and customers is, we've got toolbox talk, we got weekly safety meetings, but a lot of times those were with bullhorns with a lot of people crowded around, and although the information was communicated, right, it wasn't necessarily it wasn't heard, right, or it didn't sink in. Okay, and so what we did is, if we can get into the product, I'm trying to not make it I'm trying to not, be as salesy as there's a request that I wasn't. So I won't be, but what we see Boom Nation as, right, and what our customers have told us that we need to be is the bridge in between those two silos, the skilled worker experience and the employer experience. So we went out and built a product. It's called Work On, and it's powered by our platform that we call Boom Nation. And that's important to know and kind of who we are. So we have our technology is a platform at its foundation. And so over time, our plan is to continue to release products that meets the needs of our customers through the lens of removing friction and providing more meaningful experiences for their workforce, right? And the thing about us being a technology company, though, is you have to be really hyper-focused on a product or two to begin with, right? And so we get a lot of feedback sometimes where maybe something that's take a little bit longer time to do, where we'll put that on the impact plan, but we'll communicate with customers that, like, look, that might be something that we can work on a year from now, right? But most of the stuff that we do is feedback for the products that are already built, and we kind of get impact plans with those customers, and we get into impact plans with those customers. So real quick, to kind of bring it full circle, and how this product works is, we talked about kind of an information hub, right? So it's a real simple information hub, if you will, that has easy access to the worker. The invite and the notifications are SMS based, right? And that we got feedback. We tested a bunch of different ways. We tested notifications across the platform, right? The best way to get it adopted by the workers in the workforce was SMS text, hands down. Okay. And look, but there's power in the simplicity of how we do things. Like, we have found that. And it took us a while. We've got a really, really talented product engineering team. Some of our folks in the past have worked at IBM, Amazon, and they're sophisticated, right? And a lot of you folks remember you guys work with engineers, right? And some of you might be engineers, and engineers think differently, right, than other folks do. And it took us a while to help them understand the power of simplicity in the industry that we serve. Okay. So, and you'll also see here, so there's a simple bulletin post, if you will, when you post to the bulletin, that information, you can choose to do it, but that information goes out via SMS with a link. Workers click on that link, and they either come into a company card, a project card, where you can group workers into a certain project. All right. Or you can, and I don't have a live demo, but I have a pointer on that. Or you can share, so each little section, if you will, is what we call a content block. So if I just wanted to share, in this case, like done building company safety topic of the week, I could just share that safety topic of the week to certain people in the project and send it out. If I just wanted to share an about us, or some of our companies are doing training videos, orientation videos, and we have the capability to do, short 15-second, 30-second, or even longer videos where workers can't fast forward, and there's a quick quiz at the end, right? So in our companies get analytics on that to know everybody's seen it, they've received the information, they've watched the video. The product itself, and this is just it looks maybe more complicated than it is, but the product itself is built very elastically, right? So it's flexible. We had to do that because in construction and in what we call the skilled industries, in the industries we serve, although each company that we speak to, I don't think we've ever gotten a request or released a feature or released a product that has been requested by a customer that hasn't been able to scale to the rest of our customer base. So the problems are almost all the same. The solutions desired are very similar, if not the same, okay? But each individual company that we work with has their own processes and procedures and their own way of doing things and their own way that like makes them that they've been doing for decades, okay? So we had to build it very elastically or make it very flexible to be able to do that, okay? So companies create cards, if you will, company card and project card with this information on there. They invite their workforce. That's an EP upload. We can do that CSV, or you can individually upload companies. And then they send updates, right? And this is a little bit more information on things that can be on the card. One thing that, from a worker's perspective, it's like if you've ever Googled a restaurant, right? You may have just done that when you were trying to call to get the order corrected. On Google, they now have that. You don't have to click on the website to be able to get in and then go into the contact information and then call, right? It's kind of right there. It's a one-click to call that shows up at the bottom of your screen, or a one-click to navigate that goes to Google Maps. So our product has the same capability. So if a worker needs to get in touch with somebody on the project, that's a safety manager, coordinator, that's a foreman, that's a supervisor. We have that information all in the information hub. It's one click to call. Okay, you're not going through group text or contacts. And then from a location perspective, it's one click to navigate. So companies are doing a lot of site mobilization for new hires and things like that, and having all that information in one spot, sending it out all their new hires, and they're having reduction in the foreman or the supervisor on projects coming in and out of the gates, going to parking lots, trying to show them what parking lot to park in, what gate to go in. We're providing a lot of efficiencies there for companies. The other thing to mention here, so we can digitalize your workflow. Like we can build your own digital forms and do those for you. Many companies we work with already have their own forms that they digitalized, or maybe even their own software platforms that they're not going to move away from, and that's fine with us. What we do in this case, I don't know if we have an image of a form there, but in this case, this would be an example of we are linking out to internal forms or forms on a platform that they've adopted and like to use, whether that's JSAs or whatever that might be, employee onboarding or whatever that might be. So it's flexible in that sense too. It's not cookie cutter. You don't have to use just us. You can use what you're already using. We can put it all in one spot, and we can have the access. We can give access to the workforce in a very simple and seamless way. And with the ultimate goal, again, of providing clarity. Oh, we have a different little demo here. So there's that one click to, I jumped ahead of myself. One click to call, it just pops up. One click to navigate. Goes over to Google Maps. I don't know if this would be important for you guys in the room, but the one click to navigate, we have some, so we can do latitude, longitude pin, we can do address. Some of the folks we work with, there is no address yet on the projects they're working on. It's just kind of in the middle of nowhere. And so we do latitude, longitude pin for them. Other companies that we work for that have trucking fleets, it's important for them to be able to draw a map or draw a route that's appropriate for heavy haul equipment. And in that case, we can draw that route. So what we would do typically is, so in this navigation here, we'd have the one click to navigate where that route is already drawn. And then we'd have a content section underneath that would maybe look like this. It would be like the turn by turn descriptions for the work video driver. I can't get into the live demo here, but we also have imagine that as an image that we uploaded and not a video. Okay. So some of the folks that we work with go into areas that don't have great cell service. So we have every image that pops up is downloadable, right? These days, a lot of people just take screenshots with their phone, but if they have to, they can download that image and have access to it, or the turn by turns have access to the turn by turns before they head into areas where there's not a lot of great cell service. So I'll pause there. I think I ended a little bit early, but any questions at all?
One of the things that, if I'm understanding that I think you guys are trying to get to, I think it hits on what I hear from companies a lot now. Actually, kind of two things. Danny, I think you've probably been a judge for ABC Safe Day before. So one of the things that they do a safe day event with ABC. And you basically score these companies on their safety programs. And one of the things that the top companies, the ones that score the highest, they're always so good at is the communication. They've somehow removed barriers to communication. So the leadership is able to communicate with their workforce seamlessly, and they do it frequently. It's not just like you get introduced to the CEO or the whoever the day that you come into the building the first time, and then you never see them again. But these people are frequently out there. They're frequently interacting with their employees, reinforcing safety topics, to make it really well understood that we care about safety. It's not just like we're giving lip service and coming in the first day and saying, well, I'm the president of the company and I really want you to be safe. And so go out there and be safe, guys, we're on. And then we never see you again. The other thing, and this is what I've noticed with a lot of the technology and sensor companies, I know a lot of times in the safety world, it's very lonely. Like, you are the safety person for a very large group of people. Unfortunately, you have 2 feet and 2 eyes, and you cannot be everywhere on even one job site, much less multiple job sites. And so there are a lot of technologies now, especially in my field with ergonomics, that people can put on sensors, they can do other things like that. And so it figuratively gives somebody eyes all over a job site. Even if I'm not out there, I have technological eyes everywhere. I can follow my employees, what they're doing, like how often are they doing something unsafe or risky. I can see, like, on a certain day at a certain time every single week, these safety scores start, or the risk scores better, like, start going through the roof. So like they're doing something that day at that time that always increases risk. So I know where I can focus my time and go out there and say, what are they doing on that day that is increasing this risk? So it just gives you more, it points you in the right direction, even when you can't be everywhere at once. And it's much faster than, at the end of the year, looking at your loss run and going, oh, wow, on that job, that's where all of our injuries were coming from. And so next year I'll go focus there, but those injuries already all occurred. So it looks like this is another way that it makes communication quick, but it takes away those barriers for me as a single safety person to know, like, what is happening, because it's an easy way to communicate. I don't have to scroll through a phone and try to find, oh, who's my safety person? Who am I supposed to be contacting? And especially in the heat of the moment, because you lose your brain. But if I just see something that says safety or call this number, I don't have to think about it. So to me, it's just another one of the ways where we're increasing the spread and the reach of our safety individuals without hiring more and more safety people, because we just don't, most companies don't have the capital to go out and hire, one safety person for every worker that they have out there.
Yeah, so like the companies that are really adopting this, they're using it. So like hazard forms, right? Like digital form, like we've got a digital forms on some of these project cards where they're inputting certain, like they're being proactive about things, right? They're also doing from an employee empowerment perspective. So we've got like employee empowerment forms that we put on these cards where workers are congratulating each other. They're letting their managers know who's doing a good job. But companies are promoting crews of the week, right, through this and sending it out to the rest of the project, the rest of the workforce. CEOs have told us, like, we have CEOs who do like a what do they call it, like this particular company. it's like CEO chat of the week. So it's a weekly video that they typically, I mean, they post it on their website online, right? But now they've loaded that, and this again, this high resolution video on these cards. So they load up a video, which is really easy to do. And every time they update one, they send out a notification to the field. Where now, for the first time in their organization, like that message is out frequently every week to everyone in the organization. Right? It doesn't just stop with the folks in the office. It's now getting out to the folks in the field. So the companies that are really using this are being proactive about it. It's making a difference. They've told us that they're targeting anywhere between $500 and $1,000, like in savings per worker. And a couple of bullet points is give like incident reduction, less time. Some of those companies do billable hours, so less time in safety meetings. A lot of the companies we work with are using a number of different tools that they're having to subscribe to get the functionality of what this one product does. So reduction in subscription cost, whether that's, texting capabilities, texting software, communication software, video software that they might be subscribing to, things like that. So, companies told us that, right, from an ROI perspective. We released it, again, customers tell you ultimately what the product's used for. We released it initially to be a proactive tool, so to speak, right? Companies started telling us like, no, you are going to save us significant amounts of money per worker by us utilizing this tool. So, yeah, great point.
I think this is probably the third or fourth one, kind of platform I've probably seen in the last month. And, they're relatively the same. Actually, I think this one's on the higher end of them. But yeah, one thing that's not talked about a lot is how to get an employee to download an app and become involved. I think that's, in my end of it, my biggest hesitation is, how do I go about creating now a new culture, a new mindset? And yeah, I got a brand new employee, or I've got even old employees. How do I get them to become more interactive with this?
Yes, are you with Garrison Steel?
Yeah, I'm the safety man.
Are you? Okay, so I was with Drew and Cece yesterday.
Yep.
So, anyway, I think you're the next person I was supposed to talk to. And Drew's been awesome. He's been really, Drew was actually the one who told me that I needed to contact ASSP. So,
Yeah, I think I was part of that conversation.
you were? Okay. So it's part of the reason why we're with SMS. So some of the workforce still they don't have what we consider smartphones today, right? But honestly, you can get the old flip phones now and they've got a browser, you know what I mean? And so we went SMS link to web app, if you will, for part of that reason. And we didn't do initially native app or download an app for that reason too. Again, we listen to both workers and employers, right? And workers told us we don't want to download another app, right? So from a worker perspective, they can get this information via link to SMS and access this information, okay? If they don't want to, and if you're familiar with phones now, if you go to a website, you can click that share button like you would text a website to somebody, and you can add that website to your home screen, and it looks just like an app, right? So if workers choose to do that, to have more access to it more frequently, and companies, typically the companies we work with are trying to incentivize doing that, right? They can, right? But they don't have to do that in order to get the value out of our product. And that's why we kind of designed it this way. So we have companies where we have hundreds of weatherproof QR codes across different or across job sites, right? Some cases it's around where they do toolbox talk and stuff like that, and they'll be kind of referencing this when they do the safety meetings and toolbox talk. In other cases, it's a piece of equipment that they have to service pretty regularly. They'll slap a QR code on there. We'll have a card section that's how to operate that piece of equipment safely, right? We got a couple different ways of doing it where we don't, we want to try to incentivize technological adoption across the workforce, but we don't have to rely on it in order for this, product to be useful and adopted. So it's great. I mean, that is like the pain point, right? Like, and honestly, like going back to, anyway, you don't have to, like going back to that slide, like part of the problem with some of the technology that's out there, right? Like, it's most of it is the best functionality is desktop and iPad app, right? It's not necessarily like designed to be put in the hands of the worker, right? And so, I mean, that's what keeps us up at night, right? Like it's why we released it in this way, right? We likely will have a native app at some point in the iOS and Google Play stores for this. We do for the community app today. But that's what keeps us up. How can we continue to innovate, to continue to get technological adoption all the way through the organization in the field? So, and I mean, wearables and stuff like that. I mean, there's still like, there's concern on that in terms of like, what kind of data are you tracking on me, right? Like I'll just say, we've had companies we worked with before where they tried to do like the chip ID on the hard hat and stuff like that. That when folks walk past the gate, they had a little camera that just scanned it, right? Like didn't have to do anything. All you had to do was walk past a certain line, right? You had some workers protesting on the chip ID of the hard hat, and they'd cover it up when they were walking by it, or right. And so like, that's real, right? Like that exists, right? Like we're not a company that ignores any of that. We think about, okay, like I think we need to get there, right? Like as an industry in general. So I'll put it this way, like the technology exists today. If the industries we serve adopted all the technology that exists today, like the productivity, the connectivity, the interoperability, like it would be there. Like new technology is not required, right? Like we think that what is required is finding a way to make the technology that's out there be adopted in a way that's not invasive, right? And it's trusted. So,
and we get that with the sensors and stuff. People say, well, okay, so this knows where I am 100% of the time. It knows, how do I know that they're not tracking me? Is it really just Big Brother saying, are you really working? You're saying that it's for this and this, but are you really saying, let's see how much time he's not moving around at that spot because we know he should be moving. So I understand that it's hard to make somebody understand. No, seriously, I'm really concerned about like, why are we having injuries there? Not so much about like, why do I see your sensor being still for 5 minutes at a time?
mm-hmm.
I'm gonna run out there and check, like, are you sitting down on the job? Like, nobody's got time for that. Like, we don't have time to go out there and micromanage like that. But if there's a significant injury or there's like frequent injuries in that area, that does give us information. But that's always a concern, like how much information are you capturing? Are you capturing any personal information? Because I think one of the first assumptions is always Big Brother.
And then how much of that do you show to the employer, right?
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
So like that's the other question. Like you can collect all that data, and then do you make it transparent, right? Or if you do make it transparent, does it start to be used in a way in which you don't intend it to be used, and then your product's not adopted? So like we've got data that we can collect, right? That we don't allow to be interfaced to the employers yet, right? Because we haven't found the right use case for them to be able to use it in a way that would, for us, be a good bridge in between those two experiences. Yeah.
One, I'm an old man, so a lot of this technology is way above what I do, but I know a lot of drivers have protested and stopped companies from having cameras in the truck.
Sure.
Okay. On the mine sites, I go to a lot of mine sites, cell phones are almost always banned
Yes, sir.
okay? And the union with the miners would have an absolute come apart on this. I can see some of the guns and some of the other people, wars and people like that doing stuff. But you know, I guess that's what keeps me in business as a consultant, going out on jobs and seeing this and doing some of the training and all that, because basically you're taking the place of a safety guy or an HR person. It's like going into a grocery store and now have self-service. They've done away with the individual. And I know that's how we're doing things. But for a lot of the old timers, it's hard enough to get them aboard as far as being part of the team. And then when you introduce something like that, young people don't have a problem with it. They're so used to it, you know? But the average guy out there, 35, 40, 50 years old, they're scared to death of it. And because they don't trust it because they don't trust the employer, because the employer keeps getting bought out. And there's no loyalty, there's a lot of scare out there, and you gotta build that team. You gotta build that culture, and all it takes is one or two people that really aren't people person, but they're technical, an engineer. Okay, everyone's gotta have one in the family, but I've seen so much of this in the last 10 years where before you never heard of it, and I see the benefits, but I see a lot of people, the average skilled worker being around iron workers most of my life, and crane operators and stuff like that, that are very hesitant about someone taking care of me.
Yeah.
Help me understand more. You said the unions in particular, you said they have a field day and like they would be scared of it, or a field day in terms of like.
They don't want to share personal information. For example, a couple of years ago down at the Sheraton, they had a big meeting. They were looking at redoing, AMSHA was looking at drug testing. Okay. And they had probably 3,000 people at this meeting. I was the only contractor, but they had all the AMSHA people and then the mining people there. They were all protesting because they did not want the mine operator to have any of this information that they could use against the individual.
Okay.
And it was just, I said, when I walked into this, I thought there'd be a lot of contractors, a lot of different people from the cement plants and lime plants, but it was the union, the coal, and it was the, I just kept my mouth shut because I didn't know what side my life was in threat, but I was afraid if I was on a car, they would tip it over.
Yeah.
So.
What you're describing is what we think of as this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, for many different reasons, this is occurring, right? Across the industries that we serve, right? And I mean, our goal as a company overall is, I mean, that's our North Star right there, right? And like, honestly, like that doesn't have to be just us, right? Like our North Star there is that experience, the skilled worker experience and the employer experience. That we create a bridge in where there's increased trust, increased awareness, right? And increased efficiency.
Well, I love the idea as far as, I just finished this project. Now I'm heading over here.
Yeah.
And now I know exactly where to go, who to see, and all that. That part is positive because there's nothing worse than the first day of an outage or on a job site. Where in the hell do you go? Come day 2, day 3, it's okay. But that first day, people are late, all kinds of stuff.
Or, I grew up in the construction industry, and somebody sends you to a job site to go pick up something, go get this piece of equipment, go get this tool from so-and-so. Well, you get to the job site and the job site is the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. It's massive. It's, hundreds of square miles. Like, well, where am I supposed to go to find this guy with this tool when there's 18,000 people out here over several square miles?
Yeah.
Where, that was
It's
at this
intimidating.
point 30 years ago now, so it wasn't no such thing. But yeah, to be able to just go, where are you? Like, guide me to you right now,
Yeah.
like, where are you, that I can get there and get the thing, go back, instead of wandering around for half the day and never finding the person, then having your boss mad at you, well, why didn't you come back with that tool? I never could find him, you didn't look. Well, yeah, look, but, so, yeah, I can see where that would be.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, I love, like, I think, so in this regard, like, to your point, it's really intimidating. And I don't know if this was ABC or AGC that came out with this study. There was a 680,000 demand, this was just construction, and 680,000 demand gap. The amount of store workers that were needed, I think it was last year or something like that. But there was a 1.2 million revolving door. Right? So like people coming in from other industries, experiencing construction for the first time and exiting construction. Okay? So like there's enough people that are giving it a try to fix that demand gap without even trying to recruit in, younger folks or folks that maybe wouldn't consider it, right? But imagine that, like, and I've done this. So I'm from Lake Charles, Louisiana, big petrochemical town. I think my first job out of high school, was I went and worked at the Citgo plant. I was a laborer, and at that plant, I mean, it's Nomex, steel toe boots, hard hats, gloves. And you got to get there early, right? So you're 4:30 a.m. you wake up, you don't know where you're going. You don't know anybody that's on that project, right? You show up to a massive facility. There are 5 to 10 parking lots, right? Like you don't know which one to park in, okay? And like it's dangerous stuff, right? Like it's an intimidating facility, intimidating site, right? When you get out of your truck, like just in view, there's probably at least 5 gates, right? Like you don't know which one to go into, right? You just got your weekend to 2 weeks into having your TWIC card, right? And other certifications just to be able to enter the project. You finally get in the right gate, somebody picks you up, you go to, it takes a while to travel to wherever the project was. You don't know where the lunch tent is, you don't know what part of the project you're going to work in, right? And you don't know who you're going to work with, right? Like the first thing that I did, I showed up there, I got dropped into like a 50-foot hole where they were doing a turnaround to service pipes. And I was shoveling dirt into a backhoe that they were pulling out, an operator was pulling out as that backhoe got filled, right? Like, no wonder people are, you know what I mean? Like that's not a good experience, right? And the problem with the young folks today is like, you're not competing anymore just in the industry that you're in. You're competing with every experience that they have. So you just put a kid through that experience who a week ago either got an iPhone in the mail and had that thing up and rolling in 5 minutes, right? Or walked into an Apple store, right? And, had a seamless experience all the way through checkout, right? So like that, I mean, if you want to get deep about like how, like what matters in this and being the bridge in between those experiences, right? That's how you fix the problem in terms of the perception of what it means to have a career in the skilled industries, right? Like you make it more enjoyable, less friction, more meaningful, and you actually have a connection between these two experiences regularly. But you're right, it takes a ton of trust. It takes being vulnerable, you know what I mean, on both sides, right? We're not going to get there overnight, but we can start small, so.
Are there KPIs that you're already looking at, like when you partner with somebody, do you already have your KPIs that you're telling them to focus on, like this is where you should see improvement, or this is how we're gonna track this, so at the end of the year, we can say, I had an increase in this or a decrease in this. Activity that you're looking at, what are the KPIs that you're looking at when you partner with somebody?
So incident reduction, engagement, and frequency. So like, and those are kind of related, right? It's like, well, engagement may be more like culture building, employee empowerment, but like the incident reduction has to do with like, how frequent we are getting the information out to the field. I mean, I'll give you like, this is like we think there's power in simplicity, like we do. And intuitiveness, like when workers receive a notification from us or use our product for the first time, we want it to be so intuitive that they know what's next. They don't need a manual to figure out what the next step is, right? But putting a glove chart in front of a particular project consistently, like literally brought the hand injuries to zero. You know what I mean? And like it was a regular occurrence there for a little bit. Can't remember the exact number, and it wasn't anything astronomical, but it was like, you know, they had 10 or less hand industries within a short period of time, right? But just putting a glove chart out and I mean, they hammered it, you know what I mean? It was like, pretty regularly where they sent out that text, right? But something as simple as that is just a mental reminder of, here's the glove that you use when you're doing this. Here's the gloves that you use when you're doing this, right? And those incident reductions are a big deal. So, especially the ones that are recordable, right? Yeah, so those are the three that we focus on. Did we go over? I didn't think I was gonna.
Any other questions at all?
I could see more uses in general industry on the HR side than I can, and construction in one train of thought. Announcements, you know, weather, hey, we have a weather issue, you know, that's a whole nother cost in and of itself, right?
Gonna be out today, make sure you drink your liquids.
Yeah, we got all the union to extra contract and other places popping up. For them to be able to see, you get a new hire. I mean, most of the problem with general industry is you get a new hire that comes in. You know, if you don't establish some sort of connective tissue rather quickly, then they're not going to pay for their training, right? That you just gave them, and they're gone.
They leave for lunch one day and never come back.
That's right. So by giving them this connective tissue to put meat on the bone, that's even I don't know where a park is important, you know, we start getting away with
Improving the customer experience.
It's not just construction.
Yeah, that's it. So we've got a couple of associations that started to use this product for events like veterans and energy. ABC Pelican down in, we used it for their tarpon and fishing rodeo, right? So
The QR code on the flyer. Yeah, that's a lot of sense.
yeah. So one cool thing, so we and I'll stop here. So they now have you now have the capability. This is kind of that scary stuff that you maybe not scared. We're about to come out with branded QR codes. All right, and so like they almost look 3D, right? So like think about like a Garrison Steel logo, right? Like that, but then Garrison Steel is part of that QR code, right? So they're pretty cool. Thank you all very much for having me.
Thank you, Brent. We do have a special prize for our guest speaker.
Oh, thank you.
These are limited edition, very few of them around. Assembled. There's lunch in the back, there are ham sandwiches, turkey sandwiches, roast beef sandwiches, and a couple of tuna sandwiches. And there is also lemonade and sweet tea that just got here. So have at it.
How you doing, Brent?
Brent.
Clint Fritz.
Clint?
Yeah, with Nelson Brothers.
Okay, nice to meet you. You too.
Yes, sir. Yep.
I didn't catch your names. I'll just shake your hand.
Have been cool. Lou.
Lou. Okay.
Yeah. Nice to meet you too. You did good.
Thanks. I'm not a great.
We'll make announcements. We go ahead and have lunch. Because we've got the Zoom and we could actually Zoom. We wanted to have some more discussion.
Yeah.
Do that. Make any announcements that you have now.
That impacts on.
All the new officers next month and there's
Months.
a good big role. What's that?
The governor's, Alabama Governor Safety Conference.
Actually,
To be, well, that's the last week.
Just like.
We'll try to.
asked us to kind of,
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
kind of figure. It's not just that, what do you guys do? Oh, yeah. It's not just.